to one of the affected councils. That memo was dated June 26, now circulating across the country. The Budget Office of the Federation said the move was in line. That's a move to discontinue budgetary allocations to professional bodies and councils was in line with the decision of the Presidential Committee on Salaries. The memo in circulation was signed by the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, Ben Akabweze, and we can confirm that to you. Now, funding would be stopped for at least 30 of the professional bodies and councils by December 2024, whilst budgetary allocations would be stopped for other bodies by December 2026. So there's a full list we've got for you. If time permits us, we'll go through all of them one after the other. From the Nigerian Press Council to the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria, called ACAN, to the Veterinary Council of Nigeria, to the Nigerian Institute of Social Science Headquarters, Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, Council for the Regulation of Freight Forwarding Nigeria, and a lot more. This category are the ones that will be stopped by December 2024. There's another category for December 2026. That means they have the grace till December 2026. That's the National Council of Arts and Culture. There's the Nigerian Council of Food, Science and Technology, Environmental Health Officers Tutors in Ibadan. That's a school. It's a school to remain on treasury funding. And then there's the Council of Legal Education. That's to remain on full treasury funding. Okay, so joining the team this morning to talk about this and to also help understand the implications of this and also the provisions of the law as regards this is a legal practitioner at Tayo Oyetibo LP, Opeyemi Owalabi. Esquire. Good morning to you, Opeyemi.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, good morning. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing today?
Oh well, I'm still I'm still chilling.
Yeah, you look so.
Break and I'm here to finish my salami.
Did you bring some?
No, I didn't. Of course, I had to eat at too. Whoever was going to eat should come and visit me.
Can you imagine? So we that were here working, couldn't even bring some. But it's fine. It's fine. Good to see you after the holidays.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, so diving us straight to this policy of the federal government to stop funding professional institutions, and some will start from 2024 and some will start from 2026. Just as Kingsley has reeled out to us. What do you make of this policy? Why would the federal government make such a policy at this time?
The answer is very simple. Nigeria is broke. So Nigeria is trying to look for every opportunity to save its funds, the money in its coffers. And it didn't start today, right?
Okay.
At the peak of subsidy debate in December 2011, right? In 2011. So the federal government set up a committee to readjust the civil service to make it more efficient and to reduce the excess of money spent on civil service administration in Nigeria. So it was headed by the then head of service, Mr. Steve Orosanye. Right. So the committee, when it was set up, do you know what it did? It made some recommendations. So part of the recommendations included, some agencies of the federal government have to be scrapped, some have to be merged. One of those recommendations is what we have here, right? So it is not new, and because of course the situation is even staring us in the face the more, and there are a lot of other things that fell out from that, and so I'm not surprised.
So you have said that point blank, the country is broke, it needs money.
Yes.
So that, if he has money, the money should not be going into this institution. But what is the implication for this institution? They will not get federal government subvention or monies annually. They will not even be under the budget of the federation. How do you think they are going to survive? Do you even think that they have the capacity to survive when federal government subvention is taken out of them?
So this is it. Sometimes last year, I think in October, sorry, I don't know, one of the regulatory council, I think current now, right? In the previous year, prior to them submitting their budget for the new year, don't go to the National Assembly to report on their expenses and their activities, right? So when they were reporting their activities, so they got 1.3 billion allocation for the previous year. Eventually, when they were coming back, how much did they return to the coffers of federal government? 43 million naira. So that edged up the members of the Senate who were at that committee meeting. So ordinarily, the government has no business in conducting business. So when the government now has all these kinds of institutions, it is taking so much funds from the federal government of Nigeria. It distracts the federal government from critically investing in the infrastructure and social needs of the society.
Good. But
so the implication.
Yeah, so sorry to just come in.
Okay.
I want us to look at a very important council. That's the Nigerian Council of Legal Education, for instance.
Yes.
That council gets subvention from the federal government, but the federal government is even saying the NBA grapevine information says NBA is not part. NBA does not receive funding.
NBA is financially independent of the federal government.
Right, but the Council of Legal Education is funded, receives subvention.
Yes.
Now, this subvention will be taken away. That means law school fees would automatically go up.
Well, it has been going up since. Now, this is it, right? There are so many of these federal government regulatory councils. The reason why they are federal government agencies is because they are established by an act of the parliament. That act of the parliament now puts the minister as the head. For instance, the current that I mentioned to you, it says that it shall submit its budgets for the income of, statement of its expected income and expenditure for next year. It means that it is dependent on funding of federal government. The Council of Legal Education that you are talking about, all right? Well, the act says that it may be funded by federal government either by loan or by grant. So if you look at Medical and Dental Council, right? Medical and Dental Council established by the Medical and Dental Practitioners Act of Nigeria. You will realize that in fact part of the means through which they receive funds is through budgetary allocations from the federal government. The implication of this is that, well, they are not totally independent of the federal government. They must be independent of federal government. The implication further is that they have to devise strategic means of funding their own projects. So, which now means that, okay, apart from salaries that the federal government is going to pay, if they want to implement an infrastructural project or construct a physical project, so to say, as the case may be, that means they have to look for funds externally. So, and of course, whatever services, if I may use that term, they are rendering, it means they are going to jack up the price. You were talking about the law school. I mean, many of these, for instance, the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria says that regulates, it regulates the accounting sector. It says that, well, the accountants who are practicing accounting shall pay annual due of not less than 5K. So maybe by that time, they'll be paying like 40K annually. Or 100K annually, as the case may be.
Sorry to come in, please. I just want to ask one more question. Do you even think that the federal government has the right, legally speaking, to make this policy, considering the fact that under the act establishing these councils, there's already a provision without amending those provisions?
That's the point. Now,
there's already a provision that says that they should receive their budgetary allocation of funding from the federal government. The federal government is coming up with this policy without amending this act. So
this is it. If you look at some of those acts, I've looked at them. Some of them may receive their funds. Some of them includes funding from federal government. Some of them even says loan or grant, so to say. So I agree with you to the extent that the federal government has to amend those peculiar statutory provisions which has fixed the basic income. For instance, the FRCN is basically, right?
That's the Federal Radio Corporation.
No, not Federal Radio Corporation. Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. It talks about what do we call it now? The budgetary allocation from federal government. Right. Then even the Medical and Dental Council Practitioners Act. So it talks about, in fact, they submit their annual estimated budget to the minister so that the minister will forward it to Federal Executive Council, the debate it will send it to the National Assembly for approval. So what the minute, so for it to be more effective, right, they have to amend those provisions. So what they can do is either to remove them totally, or where they have used model auxiliary verb sharp, they can use may, so that there will be flexibility.
Is this maybe why there's a gap? We're in 2023,
yes,
and there's a gap till 2024. Maybe that's a smart move to between now and then, December 2024, for the bodies that they mentioned, the professional bodies, to maybe amend that part.
Transition period. They only need to do it within one legislative calendar, which is usually a year. So what they do, because that's the first step, they send the bill to the National Assembly, they remove those things. They don't forget any allocation is usually done by way of an appropriation act that people call budget, right? So by the time they are doing budget for January 1st, now commencing January 1st 2025 and January 1st 2027, of course they will clearly remove those parastatals or regulatory bodies, so to say. So what they are doing now is just to give them, which is very fantastic, right? Because I mean there shouldn't be element of surprise. So and it will also give them opportunity to start thinking in advance how they want to cope with the situation. So of course when we are talking about civil service, civil service or public service should be run in such a way that it will be very, very profitable for government. Not that to be taking money away from government.
Sorry, I think you are saying that should be profitable for government, but if I'm not mistaken, should government be a money-making venture, money-making business institution? Okay,
making money or profit now, it's not only by way of just receiving funds. Also, you conserve fund when you don't have to spend unnecessarily. For instance, if I'm supposed to spend 1 billion and eventually I end up spending 50 million, and I get the same result.
Okay.
Right? So, and I get the same result. The implication of it is that more money is saved for the government and it's profitable. So the government will be able to run effectively. Don't forget, the basic infrastructure that government must produce is the security and the welfare of the people. So anything after that is not a priority. So
looking at the list of the bodies, the affected bodies and councils, there are those. Do you think there are those that are or should be untouchable? Yes. Maybe a good move to conserve, to save money, but do you think there are those that should be untouchable? For example, West African Examination Council included, right? The National Economic Council, NECO, included. So when I said West African Examination Council, WAEC, for many persons, they're not, except to mention WAEC, they're not sure it is WAEC. So WAEC, NECO, for example. Do you think such councils should be untouchable and not included in this list? Or,
so, when you say untouchable, I mean the government should continue to spend money on them and the like. So now we have JAMB, right? Before the current JAMB DG came in, Professor Oloyede, JAMB was returning average of 40 million annually. But when President Buhari came in and he removed the current, he removed the former one and he put in the current person, JAMB was returning billions. So, look, the government want to restructure the civil service based on a Rosanye report. Don't forget that the government has also kickstarted the implementation of the increment in school fees in public institutions by increasing or imposing tuition fees. These are part of the report. Now, from the perspective of WAEC and NECO, there's nothing saying that they should not be touchable. Of course, every civil service system has to be reformed. But to what end will it have to be reformed? It must be reformed to the extent that it will bring out optimal performance in its duties, right? So that society is going to benefit more. Of course, you agree with me that, okay, just like some people are saying, the JAMBs, WAEC and NECO, they are part of the educational service system. So the government should pump more money so that more people will be able to afford those examinations. I agree, but
public policy.
Yes, but again, I said government also has a way around it. What governments have been doing over the period of time is for states to be purchasing examination forms for the students and for NECO and WAEC for the students, so that they will be able to enroll in this. Education is very, very expensive. Of course, we can jack it up a bit, but of course there must also be leverage for the common man who cannot afford it. So in this wise, well, I'm afraid the government will have to bring a searchlight in that area and do the needful. So there is no any untouchable or a regulatory council, so to say. amongst all of them.
Right.
So what the government wants is that the system must run efficiently and government must save more money. Now, some people have even argued that in the educational sector, more attention should be given to primary education than secondary education.
Right. So we've been talking about the discontinuation of federal government funding for professional bodies, and we've been speaking with Opeyemi Owalabi. He is an associate counsel at Tayo Oyetibo LP. For me, finally, I don't know if Kingsley, if you have any other question, but I want to ask, what would the trickling effect, the multiplier effect of this policy on citizens who would now need services from these councils or institution or professional bodies? Because obviously they would have to pay more.
Definitely.
That's an implication. Will this not lead to crisis in the nearest future?
Well, when you say crisis, I mean, it's very, very broad.
If I'm paying more for a service that ordinarily I should have paid, look at universities now. We just read that ECPOMA pays 168,000 naira for, if I'm not mistaken, for law students. Yes. Now they're paying 760 something thousand. That's like 3 or 4 times of the money they ought to have been paying for law.
It is. I understand the angle from where you are coming. I agree with you completely that the cost of rendering those services to an average person, to the society, to the public at large, is going to skyrocket, right? But of course, the government, this has been our argument. If you remove subsidy from anywhere, right, you must alleviate it. So there must be a system, efficient and functional system.
What would that system be?
Of course, scholarships, grants, and the like. The state government are going to profit from the removal of subsidy. Why can't the state government come up with scholarship and grant? They were doing it before, and they stopped all of a sudden. So it is not the problem of federal government, right? The federal government can fund education to a certain extent. The state and local government must support the federal government so that the effect of all this restructuring and turnaround in the system is not going to be fully brought on the common man. So if you have, I wouldn't want to talk about advanced, but in the same line, right, there will be soft loan for students. If the government is looking for a perfect society, because that is the extent to which they want to implement these policies, they must be able to do a perfect, put in place perfect machinery or mechanism to be able to alleviate the suffering on the people.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming through. We thank you so much for being here and for shedding light on this. Opeyemi Owalabi is an associate counsel at Tayo Oyetibo LP. We appreciate you again.
Thank you.
Always pleasure. A good one having you here. Well, let's go straight to social buzz on the Life and Morning Show. We hear point of sales. That's POS operators. They've announced new charges for customers.